Hey, what's going on, everybody? Mark from Rams Up here. I'm going to have some fun this episode, actually, over the next two episodes, as long as nothing earth shattering happens on the Rams front. I'm going to share my all Sean McVay roster, the All Star team of all the guys that have played for Sean McVay with the LA Rams, and some tough decisions made in picking this team. So I'll do the offense today and special teams, and then another episode, I'll get into the defense. And again, if something crazy happens, we'll push that second episode back. So before I get started, I wanted to share something I heard. I stumbled across a video, Albert Breer, really good NFL insider. He was talking about the Rams. Someone asked him the question, what's going to happen with the Rams at the cornerback position? Is it Ramsey? Is it basically possibly Jari Alexander? And we've talked about this quite a bit. And Breer had some really good insight. I think we all kind of know this. We just haven't talked about it. The Rams have not invested in a elite cornerback since Ramsey left. And he said that a lot of NFL teams, let's just say there's two theories on how to approach the cornerback position. If you think the cornerback position can be a stop sign for an offense, then yeah, you need a CB1. But a lot of teams, and I think including the Rams, think of the cornerback position as more of a speed bump. The way the rules are set up and the way offenses play the game now, you're better off just being really deep at the position, have some competent guys, a nice group, rather than investing in a so-called shutdown corner. And I think that's what the Rams have done and continue to do, which would mean that maybe Jalen Ramsey is not on the plate for them. But I think what Breer might have overlooked is I don't think the Rams would use him in that fashion, even if they did bring him on board. But nonetheless, investing in cornerbacks is not something the Rams have been doing. Now, would they invest in a star position player? Possibly. And worth noting that Jeremy Fowler of ESPN continues to say that the Rams are in the mix, as are the Chargers, and that the Dolphins are nearing a trade and something could happen in the next few days. So maybe we'll put this all to rest pretty soon here. What the heck is going on with Jalen Ramsey, and are the Rams truly his eventual destination? And I wanted to mention one thing about the Dodgers. I know it's a Rams podcast, but had to really, I wouldn't say I enjoyed the dust up between the Padres and the Dodgers the other night. What I think is interesting is I think Ohtani's the only guy that gets it. You know, the Dodgers hit Tatis again, and I've always believed that if you hit a player, a star player especially, there's probably going to be some payback, and you shouldn't be upset about it. You should just accept it and move on. Doesn't matter if it was intentional or not. If you're going inside more than you should and you're nicking another team's, one of their star players, Ohtani gets it. He gets hit, and he just walks to first base and actually had a conversation with the Padre dugout. I thought that was pretty cool. Hey, this Ohtani dude's growing on me. He's a great player and a great person, and he gets it. Not a big deal. Tatis gets hit. Ohtani gets hit. Let's just move on. Now, of course, the Padres were upset even before the payback pitch, but there you have it. On with the Dodgers. Enough of the Dodgers. Let's move on to the Rams. And before we get started, it is episode 765 on the podcast, and I wanted to talk about a player who wore number 65. He actually wore number 60 more than he wore 65, actually. But I'm going to talk about defensive end Fred Stokes. Like I said, number 60 and number 65, 6'3", 274 pounds out of Georgia Southern, a 12th round pick in 1987, 2 years with the Rams, then over to the Redskins for 6 years, and then back to the Rams for 3 years, one of those actually in St. Louis. Finished with 16 and a half sacks as a Ram, and 1993 was his big year as a Ram, 9.5 sacks, and he was a pretty darn good player. And worth noting that he after he retired, and if you're watching on the YouTube channel, I got a picture of him chilling. It looks like he's just chilling in a backyard or something, but he got really involved in delivering food to military families overseas. So shout out to him for doing that. A class act, Fred Stokes. And he actually won a Super Bowl with the Redskins. So Fred Stokes, our number 65 and number 60 for the Los Angeles Rams. All right, let's get into this All-McVay All Star Team. 2017 through 2024 is essentially what we're talking about. We're going to talk offense this episode. And who do we have to consider? And by the way, I'm not moving guys around. I'm talking about guys that actually played left guard or right tackle and so on, not moving guys around, just try to get the 5 best guys perhaps. Had to play the position. Now, left tackle is a no-brainer. Andrew Whitworth led us to a Super Bowl victory. And then at left guard, I considered Steve Avila. There's some other guys that occupied that spot as well. Austin Corbett, David Edwards, but I went with Roger Saffold, and he played there for 2 years under McVay before moving on, and was there prior to that as well. And then at center, John Sullivan started the first 2 years under McVay. It hasn't been a position of strength, though. Brian Allen, up and down career as a Ram, was a Pro Bowl alternate 1 year. And, I think I really had to settle on Coleman Shelton. Coleman Shelton led us, well, I shouldn't say he led us, but he did win a Super Bowl title as our center. And then at right guard, Alaric Jackson played there 1 season, or at least part of 1 season. Didn't really stand out at that point, though. Austin Blythe, Austin Corbett, Jamon Brown, Cody Wickman. Get the idea here, and that's why I went with Kevin Dotson. And is right tackle. Is there any point in deliberating that? It's really been one guy, Rob Havenstein. So that's my starting 5 up front. Andrew Whitworth, Roger Saffold, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dotson, and Rob Havenstein. I think that's probably not going to get much pushback from you folks, you listeners, but let me know if you disagree. Maybe Avila over Saffold might be the only point of contention. Now we get to wide receivers and tight ends, and Cooper Kupp's got to be number 1, right? And I think Puka Nacua has to be number 2, even though it's a relatively short career. Bunch of other guys to think about, to consider, but OBJ, Sammy Watkins, Brandon Cooks. I don't know. I'm not sure if any of them measure up to Robert Woods. Woods, 5 years with the Rams, Bobby Trees, as we like to call him. 5 years, and he's 10th on their all-time receiving yardage list. And he was a guy that did the dirty work and was a fan favorite for exactly that, I think. Talk about the we, not me. I think Bobby Trees, Robert Woods might have been the guy that kind of set that tone, that set that tradition, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua to follow. And, I get it. There's been some other productive receivers, but even Tavon Austin played under McVay, but it's got to be Robert Woods. I feel pretty comfortable with this starting 3, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Robert Woods. And then tight end, it's got to be Tyler Higbee. You talk about Havenstein being the lock at right tackle. I think the other total lock is tight end Tyler Higbee. Pretty much been the guy. Gerald Everett and some other guys have had their moments in the sun, but it's mostly, almost entirely Tyler Higbee. So didn't spend much time deliberating that. Now we get into the quarterback and running back, and you're going to say it has to be Matthew Stafford. And I'm not going to disagree with that. Not going to give it away entirely here, though. But it's worth noting that as a Ram under McVay, Goff is still ahead of him in total yardage. So worth noting anyways, but it's still got to be Matthew Stafford, right? And my running back, Kyron, I got to give you a couple more years of proving it. Todd Gurley is my guy. I don't think any player was more instrumental in getting this franchise pointed in the winning direction? I think Todd Gurley and Sean McVay, it was some kind of magic when those two guys got together and 2017. I still remember so many games where I remember the play designed by McVay and Todd Gurley taking advantage of it. That slant pattern, I guess that's what you call it, against the Cowboys. The Cowboys thought they had that game in the bag, and the Rams came back and won it in Dallas. I'll never forget Zeke Elliott taking off his jersey like he's done for the day. This game is over, and the Rams just come back and beat them. And Todd Gurley was the biggest component of that. He was the biggest part of that offense. His contributions, his production during that period is just insane. I don't know of another way of putting it. And I'll take Stafford over Goff, and I think I'm going to get close to 100% agreement on that. Remember, this is 2017 to 2024, and I'll take Stafford, even though Goff may have him edged statistically during that period. At least I think so. Now, special teams. Johnny Hecker's got to be the punter, right? Probably the best punter of his generation, or at least top 2 or 3. If they considered more than they do as far as electing punters to the Hall of Fame, Johnny Hecker might be at the top of that list. Such a special teams weapon, throwing the ball as well. And he was a good athlete and one of the best punters in the league for several years, a Pro Bowler several times as well. Got to be Johnny Hecker. And the kicker, I considered Matt Gay versus Greg Zuerlein, and Greg had the bigger leg, obviously. Matt Gay, no slouch, very accurate, very reliable. And I just considered length of service. Greg played for McVay for 4 years, and Matthew Gay 3 years. And so I gave the nod to Greg. And, truth be told, if you were to tell me to pick an all-star team, it would be Greg over Gay, and that's what I'm doing here. I think Greg, his ability to hit the 50-plus yarders was, pretty impressive. And then the long snapper, Alex Ward is making a name for himself. We don't talk about those guys enough, but it's got to be Jake McQuaid. He was named to at least one Pro Bowl, very reliable, still in the league and playing well. So it's got to be Jake McQuaid. So that is my special teams unit: Johnny Hecker, Greg Zuerlein, and Jake McQuaid. So we'll go over the defense another day, another episode. Hopefully the next episode, pending any other developments across the league that causes us to jump on that. But offensive special teams, I got Matthew Stafford and Todd Gurley lining up behind Andrew Whitworth, Roger Saffold, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dotson, and Rob Havenstein. My wide receivers, Kupp, Nakua, and Bobby Trees, and my tight end, Tyler Higbee. Special teamers, Johnny Hecker, Greg Zuerlein, and the long snapper, Jake McQuaid. Not too shabby. Overall, you look at this roster, it's pretty darn good. Maybe a couple of weaknesses along the offensive line if you're looking at it from an all-star perspective. But you get these guys together in their prime, they would be unstoppable. That's my All-McVay offense, and we'll get into the defense. That's going to be a little dicier, some tougher decisions to make. I already started in on that, and that's probably going to be a team that provokes some more comments than this offensive team will, I think. But it's going to be fun. Coming up on our next episode or two, the end of our All-McVay All Star Team out here from Rams Up.